Well, today's subject, I might end up going all over the place with it because today's subject is linked to so much that I deal with and that I talk about. And I kind of feel as if I touch on this all of the time, but I still get asked so many questions about this. So many things come up, and it's clear that people, hi, thanks for joining. People don't understand the importance of valuing yourself, loving yourself, and appreciating yourself. And that when you don't, it affects absolutely everything in a negative way, which also stands to reason that when you do, it affects everything in a positive way. So let's try and start at the beginning. And this will link to so many of the trainings that I've done recently. So the whole point of this, why don't you value yourself? The reason you don't value yourself, and let's be clear about this, is because you have been taught not to. Okay? So from somewhere in your past, in your childhood, it might not necessarily be at school. I know when I was taught not to value myself, it was mostly from school, actually, from bullying at school. But it comes from something very significant in your childhood. For most people, it is the way they are treated at home. And where I find this really, really prevalent is where children have parents who have an addiction, because parents who have an addiction have absolutely no chance of meeting their children's needs. They just can't do it. So you as a child, then you feel unloved, you feel unworthy, and you feel undeserving. And the worst thing you feel is that it must be your fault. This must be down to you. You must have done something to deserve this. Okay, so that's one thing that happens. And the other thing, of course, is in abuse situations, whether it's emotional, physical, or sexual abuse, the result of that is that, again, you feel that you have no value, no worth, no purpose, no one cares. And the biggest thing, again, that this must be your fault. You are somehow defect. You've somehow been rejected. You are faulty. This is all down to you. And this creates the blueprint that you carry forward. So let's get this clear. No one is born except, okay, the rare exception, womb trauma. And there's a tiny percentage of babies that are born with this sense that they have no value and no worth and no purpose, and that they are not lovable. And those are the babies that experience womb trauma. And this is normally when they are not wanted, maybe when someone's been forced to have them and they've been raped, maybe in a family where, they're just not allowed or able to get an abortion, or where there are very difficult circumstances and a baby is born knowing it's not wanted. Other than that, babies are born with an absolute, it's an instinctive and innate sense of their own value and the fact that they are lovable. I've said to you before, they reach out, you put your finger out and a baby will just do that. A baby makes connection knowing that it is lovable, adorable, and that when it does that, there is something safe and secure there, and that someone will meet its needs. And a baby will do that until it is taught otherwise. Now, even in perfectly healthy situations, let's say this carries on while the baby is a baby, but once they become a toddler and they start to do things that as adults we don't want them doing, they start to break things, or they go near electrical points, or all things that are perfectly normal for us to want to stop them doing, but we tell them no, or we get cross with them. And in unhealthy situations, there might be physical and emotional abuse involved as well. So what the child starts to learn is, okay, I'm not always loved. I'm not perfect. Maybe I'm not as adorable. Now, in most situations, there's going to be something to counteract this. Thank you. There's going to be something to counteract this. You're going to tell a child off, and then when you see it's upset, you're going to pick it up, give it a big hug, say, it's just because I love you, I want to keep you safe, and you're going to restore that sense of safety and security. But when children don't have that, and they are just shouted at, yelled at, and this becomes their norm, this is where their sense of self-confidence, their self-esteem, and their value all gets eroded at a very, very young age. And this is what they take forward. So, when people are trying to work out, why don't I value myself? They don't actually say it in that way. That's normally what I point out to them. Let me tell you the most common questions where this comes up. The most common question is, why do I keep having abusive relationships? That's the most common thing. People will say, why have I had 2 narcissistic relationships? Why do all my partners abuse me? And it might be different types of abuse, or people will say, I don't understand all this abuse in my life. I had sexual abuse as a child. I had physical abuse as a teenager. And now I'm in an emotionally abusive relationship. I don't understand it. What's wrong with me? And these are the common ways that this comes up. So people don't say, what's wrong with me? I don't value myself. They say, what's wrong with me that I'm having all these awful relationships? And the answer to it is, you don't value yourself. Okay? And there's a reason you don't value yourself. You don't value yourself because you were taught not to. You don't value yourself because other people didn't. It was the way you were treated, the way you were spoken to, the experiences you had that gave you this overwhelming and total sense that you are not worth it. You are not good enough. You don't have value. You don't have purpose. You don't know why you're here. No one else tells you what that they don't know why you're here. These may have even been phrases and things that were said to you. When parents say to you, I don't know why you're here. I don't know why we bothered having you. I wish we hadn't had you. All of these things just feed into, well, they're not making you feel worthy, are they? They're not doing anything to pick up your self-esteem and fill you with self-confidence. So where does this lead? So the biggest thing I said, I've written some of these down, is with these abusive relationship patterns, because you think it's, on one level, you think it's all you're worth, okay, because it's what you've been told. On another level, you think there's something wrong with you, that you're a bad person, that you've done something bad, so you think it's all you deserve. And on another level again, so there are 3 different aspects to this. On another level again, it was probably what you were modeled. You probably saw some kind of abuse in your parents' relationship. Because what I went through yesterday was about how to be careful, because your kids are learning from you. So you've learned from your mother that this is what happens in a relationship. This is what a man does. This is what a father does. You've learned these roles. So this is where your abusive relationships come from, those 3 levels. Okay, that it was what was modeled to you. You were taught you had no value, so you think it's all you deserve. You somehow think you need to be punished and that this is all you are worth. So on those levels. And the other way, of course, this really shows up when you don't believe in yourself and your value and your worth. It also shows up in your work. Because you won't push yourself for promotion, you won't be seeking to achieve your full potential, you'll probably put yourself in a menial job. Again, not understanding all the great characteristics and abilities that you have, and just accepting that this is all that's available to you. This is all you're worth, because that's what's been told. And then, of course, the really big impact is the ongoing impact, because you are now modeling to your children what was modeled to you. And your children will also pick up on your lack of self-confidence. It will affect absolutely everything. They will start to tell themselves the same story, especially if you have similar relationships that caused you to be how you are. So here's the thing, you have to break the pattern. This is what I love about people asking the question. You know, when people ask, why am I having all these abusive relationships? Why can't I put myself forward at work for promotion? Why don't I use my voice? You know, why don't I express my opinion? Why don't my friends or my family care about me? All these things. Why are my teenagers acting up? You know, my husband used to call me names and now my teenager calls me names. Well, they learnt it, you know, and you're allowing it. You know, they are understanding your value and your worth as well. So you're perpetuating, you're repeating this cycle. And one of the things about people actually asking, why do I have all these abusive relationships? Why don't I try to do better for myself? Why am I accepting this? Why is this happening to me? Is because I know that that's a starting point. It's a starting point of someone starting to recognize, hang on, this really isn't acceptable. Or maybe they haven't even got that far. They're kind of putting a feeler out and asking the question, is this acceptable? Should I be accepting this? Should I be expecting more from other people, from myself? And although I wish they hadn't had to go through these horrible relationships, for me, it's a shift. It's a turning point. We can start to do something here. I can, even if it's just a post in a Facebook group, I can start to respond. And, you know, when you start saying to someone, well, it's because you don't value yourself, they start to understand. And then you start to say, so what was in your past? What has caused you to feel like this? And you can start the conversation, start to sow seeds. And it might take a long time because the other thoughts and beliefs have been there for a long time. But I just love it when I can just start to work with someone in that way, especially if they're in my Facebook group, because obviously then I've got more freedom to be able to tell them and give them information, and to be able to work with them on a much deeper level, even within the group, which is great. So, as we said, it stands to reason that if you get held back and you get abused and mistreated when you don't value yourself, obviously what happens when you recognize this and you learn that you should value yourself and you can value yourself and you put in the work and you invest in your future. You know, if you work this out between 30 and 40, you've got like 50, 40 years ahead of you. So invest in yourself in learning to change your thought processes, the thoughts and beliefs that you have about yourself, because it affects absolutely everything. When you love yourself and you show up with the confidence and the self-esteem, placing your values and your boundaries in place and putting yourself first, the right people love that. Not only are you going to transform the relationships that you have and that you attract, the people that come into your life, you're going to transform every opportunity that you have, even the places that you want to go on holiday, the friends that you have, the places you eat out, the hobbies you choose, moving forward in your career. And here's the big thing. You are going to change what you are inputting and modeling to your own children. You're going to break the pattern, break the chains. And that is the biggest, for me, that is the biggest and most impactful thing that we can do as this generation. My generation, like I'm in my 50s now, my generation and the generations coming up behind me, the best thing we can do is embrace everything that's available to us, all the learning, all the opportunities, every chance that we have to understand this and to break this pattern and to change things moving forward for the generations that are coming up behind us, so that we see ourselves in a different way, we give to them in a different way, and moving forward, everything shifts and changes, and we break these horrible cycles and patterns of people being abused when they are young and moving forward with this low self-esteem and this no value attitude. Let's do everything we can to be the best versions of ourselves. Everything we need is out there. There's all the learning, the information, there's the science, the medical information, there's the coaches, the mentors, the therapists. We can all change how we see ourselves and what we are inputting into ourselves and what we are then putting out into the world from that. So let's just do that. Let's understand that we are a product of our environment and what we learned. And let's just change that moving forward for those who come up behind us. And that's really what I want to say about that. And I hope that just makes sense for you, and that you can start to think about what it is that you think about yourself, why you have this low value if you do, and what you can do to change that. Where did it come from? The dog's barking at the fence again. He does this in all my lives. I don't hear from him all day. I start doing a live, he's barking at the fence. Anyway, okay. So, dog lover. Obviously, you know that. Okay, so start to think about this for yourselves. Think about, how do I see myself? Am I striving and achieving for my full potential? Where did all this come from? What do I need to change? How am I impacting the people around me? What am I modeling to my kids, and why am I doing that? And if I see that it needs to change, how do I go about that? Just start to ask yourself these questions and then explore your options for the change that you want to bring about. And the thing is to be the change that you want to see. Be the role model that you never had. Be the adult that wasn't in your life. You know what that cost you. You know what it meant to you. So be it and do it for someone else that you are responsible for. Okay, in whatever capacity. You know, you can shine and you can give in a positive way to so many people, just not just those in your immediate family, but you can develop a very, very big circle of people that you can influence by who you are and what you give out when you absolutely value yourself. Don't think you can make an immediate jump. You don't go from loathing yourself or thinking, oh God, I've got no purpose, no value, no one loves me, no one cares, no one sees me, no one hears me. You don't just suddenly one day love yourself. It's a process, it's a journey. And start by being gentle with yourself. Move from not liking very much. I don't like the word loathing and hating. We shouldn't, and people do feel that about themselves, but I wish we didn't. So just move being gentle, using different words about yourself, creating different images about who you think you are. Just be gentle, do the exploration. And when you have more understanding, work on, how do I shift now to loving myself, understanding myself, seeing myself for who I really am. And that will just have a huge impact on your life. And I'm here if you want any help with that. And of course, if you have any questions, as normal. Okay, thanks so much for listening. And I really hope that was helpful to you. And I'll catch up with you again tomorrow. Thanks, everyone. Bye.